Hello everybody, Shadow SB here. I'm on Granblue Fantasy yet again. So, 10th anniversary, 10th birthday, whatever they want to call it. The celebration is on. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of limited time stuff that this account doesn't want to take advantage of. So, let's talk about a few things. Alright, first things first, basically comes with all of these kind of really large campaigns, limited time missions. Now, it's going to be pretty hard for this account to avoid clearing any of these missions. So, we'll just have to deal with it. And, you know, if you're trying to complete the missions, you're not going to finish all of them as a new player. Because a lot of them have, you know, high level requirements. That said, with the 10 times rank points and experience points going on, it's not impossible to reach the high level content. More or less, just plow forward, doing things like the campaign exclusive quest. Right, I spent, I think, between the campaign exclusive quest and a little bit of the slime quest, the very hard slime quest. I did manage to get through all 10 million points on the experience side relatively quickly. I'm on my main account, not this account, and I still got, you know, a little bit of bonus left on the RP side, but it's not that big. So yeah, if you want to focus on getting those bonuses, getting through those bonuses, you can. And the campaign exclusive quest is a pretty great way to do it, given that you get some drops, get some AP, because the quest drops half elixirs, and you get character experience, you know, EMPs, whatever you need to get from that. Alright, so you're doing the missions, which require, you know, clears of the high-level raids and everything, and this account doesn't want to do them. We're going to get to some other stuff that this account's not going to do. So first off, there is this little banner, Step Up Classic Special. So I can click on this, and you can see we can draw 100 times for free, completely free. Now, if you wanted to spend money, you could finish off a 300 part draw for relatively cheaper than everything else than it usually is. I don't think I would recommend it, but if you want to, you can, you know. But if you don't want to, you still get 100 free draws. Right? We can look at over here at the draw rates. You know, we can see this is, you know, one of the classic banners. I think this is classic 1 because they have 2 classic banners now. Yeah. So ultimately, right, it's worth pulling the 100 draws. And those draws will kind of stick around in that banner. And, you know, if you get some extra free draws over the event that's going on here, you know, maybe you can go toward a spark, right? I think they stick around. Maybe it's something different with the special here, but normally things like that would stick around. Actually, I think this one's special because it's got 6% draw rate, so it might be that this is completely separate. But the roulette that's going on does stick around for sparks. Okay, so with that done, yeah, the birthday missions. I think that I did talk about the kind of the raid clearing ones, but there is a mission for clearing missions. Right, you clear these missions, you get a whole bunch of rewards. Right, there's the 10th birthday weapon ticket is a big one. It's not the big one, but it is pretty huge. because it gives you, you know, another free weapon that I'm gonna talk about this ticket in a minute. And this sand is irritating farm. So getting up to 100 missions completed is pretty good, and if you're doing your daily hosts, it's not that hard, but if you're not at the stage where you have the daily skips for a lot of these missions, or for a lot of these raids, it's a lot more tedious. Right? You set it up, call for backup, and, you know, full auto until it completes, but even then it's still going to take a while. I've been in that position before. It kind of sucks, but if you're full autoing, at least you can kind of leave the game on the side and do some other stuff. Alright, so let's see. I think that the last thing to talk about is the free tickets that we're getting. So, I want to look at this real quick to show what we're getting in the future. So there are, in addition to the 10th birthday weapon ticket, there are 3 other tickets: Superlative Weapons, 6 Dragons, and Revenant Weapons. Or not Revenant Weapons, Revan Weapons. They're too similar. I'm sorry. My mind just automatically completed it because this is a newer series, and the Revenant Weapons have been in the game for forever. Alright, so in addition to this set of login rewards being really great, these tickets can be helpful. Alright, so let's talk about the tickets in order. These Superlative Weapons, and we can see these down here. These are weapons that you would usually trade your moons for, your gold moons. And they have any element, basically. Now, I'm going to be honest here. These weapons aren't the best. And they're not likely to help you in progression all that much. I do think of these, the best one's probably the Excalibur. Just for general purpose. Because it does have some useful weapon skills. I think we can actually see those in the shop better. Let me move over here. Right, so here's an Excalibur. Right, so we have, and this is why they're not necessarily going to help you get all that strong. The skills that they have, first of all, they're not boosted by your free-to-play farmable summons, so that's gonna hurt. But you really only want these for main hand purposes, so that's not that big of a deal. There are definitely instances that you main hand a weapon that has no skills that boost your attack or anything. So this has this skill, Right Way Pathfinder, which has the ability to boost your main character's charge attack damage and supplement charge attack. So it adds extra damage on top of that. I forget the exact percentage of enemy health that it uses, but the limit is the absolute maximum for the CA supplement, which is 1 million damage. So this weapon's actually pretty good for that. It only applies to... it only applies when it's the main, main weapon, and it only applies to your main character. But that does help. And its charge attack is actually pretty decent, because it gives you this bonus superior elemental damage effect, so you're able to deal an extra instance of damage afterwards with your basic attacks. So Excalibur is pretty decent. I think for the most part, the rest of these weapons don't see that much use. Where was the thing? There it is. Yeah, I think that most of these other weapons don't see that much use, except for Skypiercer. But I don't... Like, this is a racing weapon for certain racing setups. You know, when you join raids, race for MVP. It's not likely to help you as a newer player. I think it's the only one that's going to help you as, you know, a new player is going to be Excalibur. Other than that, if you know what you're doing, you can pick any of them. If you know what you're doing. Basically, I'm saying if you're in a position where you have to ask which weapon you should pick, the only answer I would probably give is Excalibur, and it's likely not the biggest difference. All right. So then we move on to the 6 Dragons ticket. And these are summons that all have very similar aura, right? So it's a bonus to fire attack, big bonus to fire attack for Willness, a big bonus to elemental attack for all of them, and a sub bonus to give a small boost to normal mod skills. Is generally the way to look at it. Now, they do all have a different call, but they all have a very similar call, right? So you can see these calls all have varying hit numbers, but they all give you 75,000 maximum supplemental damage, which is pretty good. So you'll see that the Fire Dragon has the highest hit count at 15. And, you know, you got Light and Earth, I think, with the lowest that is only a 1 hit. So ultimately, from the perspective of a purely free-to-play player that is not doing anything with the gacha, not getting any, you know, extremely powerful weapons, basically someone that has an account like me, like this one, and someone that has or someone that's, you know, just starting out and isn't planning on doing any of that whale stuff, right? Granted, over time you can get some of the freebies. With the freebies, you can get what looks like a pay-to-win grid, right? But it's not necessarily going to just come together. So, with that in mind, there are 2 standouts on this list that basically we would kind of narrow that down to. And that is the Fire Dragon and the Light Dragon, Willness and Luo. So, talking about Luo, right? The grid that Light tends to build when moving into high level is one that contains the swords that you can get in the prestige shop, right? Or not the prestige shop, the renown shop. So let's go look at that real quick. Page 2. So you'll see it's got Night Code's Majesty, which is small boost to attack and max HP, and Light's Might. Now, that may be familiar, because Lights is the prefix for normal mod skills. So the reason that Luo actually is somewhat usable for free-to-play is because its sub-aura is applicable to its grid. It's not the best, but it does help. It boosts your damage by a little bit. Also, you know, it does have this 75k supplemental damage. It's not bad, right? I don't think any of these summons are actually just bad. If you have an element that you favor, or an element that is stronger than the others, right? Like I could see in this account, on this account, even picking Wind, right? Because our Wind is so strong. Having extra power in the form of this summon could be pretty useful. Also, the other thing to consider is main aura is pretty high. This is a pretty good elemental attack main summon. It's the case on all of them, right? So if you have a summon or an element that you're like, I want an elemental summon main aura, you can pick one of these. It's not bad. Now, the other one to pick, being Willness, is for a couple of reasons. One, 15 hits is a lot, and there are fights later that care about the number of hits that you do. So being able to call a summon and do 15 hits is pretty strong. Also, and this is kind of getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, when we're looking at Revan weapons, the fire one is pretty highly used in endgame grids, and these are farmable weapons. And it has normal mod skills, so it does get a boost from it. So it's kind of okay there. Yeah, if you have the, but you know, when we talk about getting to end game, right? If you're playing with the gacha, the summon slots get really competitive. If you're not, though, they're not really that competitive. There's only a few that are any good. So yeah, I think that I would probably pick between Willness and Luo, but any of these picks is viable, especially if you're considering using it for main summon purposes. That said, if I'm going to pick one for main summon, I would pick one that is not wind, earth, or water, for reasons that we'll talk about later. Oh, or fire. So I would pick light or dark in that case. Sorry, I forgot about the fire one for a second because I'm completely spacing out. But yeah, if you're gonna pick one for main summon purposes, I'd pick light or dark. If you're gonna pick one for elemental strengthening purposes, any of them are reasonable. And if you're picking one to just kind of have marginal benefits, I'd pick Willness or Luo. Pretty much as simple as that. Alright, then we get to Revan weapons. Alright, if you're a new player, these will not be very useful. If you are an intermediate player, these will probably not be very useful. So, saying that is a little bit kind of counterproductive. So let's talk about these weapons a little bit. So, let's look at the Extinction Blade, right? It's a weapon, it's a saber, it's got really, really strong charge attack damage, and here it has some normal skill mods, right? Big boost to fire defense based on low HP, small boost to attack and crit rate. And, at the level that you get it, it will supplement your critical hit damage by 20,000. That's not bad, really, but it doesn't have much of a place in an early to intermediate grid, because this weapon needs to get extra stats from its awakening levels in order to really really justify its purpose in your grid. And if you'll notice what it says, it comes at awakening level 1, and that's the case on all of these. So, right, we can look at Schrodinger, right? It's a boost to attack, HP, multi-attack based on katanas. This number is very small if you only have one of them. Snowfall's Quenching is actually pretty good. I'll say that. In that, like I said earlier with the Excalibur, it supplements your charge attack damage up to 600,000 for every member of your party. So, this is okay. But you'll notice it has no attack raising skills other than this Blade's Wrath. And if you don't have a decent number of these, that number is going to be really small. Right, Fang of the Dragon Slayer. So this one is probably a little bit better than the other two for a newer player to intermediate, right? Because it has both of these skills. So it's a big boost to your allies' attack, and you take damage every turn. I believe equal to 5% of your max HP. And, small boost to attack and HP. It's okay. I wouldn't probably recommend getting it, just because it is going to kind of cut into your long-term survivability, especially early on. But it's better than the other two, just kind of as a package when you get it without any awakening levels available. Alright, then we get this thing, Sette di Spade. similarly to the katana, it has some issues because it cares about the number of sabers equipped. Well, that's going to be hard to do. And the numbers are small with only one copy of this. And again, it doesn't have a strong stat boosting skill. So basically, this is the kind of weapon that you want a lot of in your grid, and you have to farm it out. Then you have this weapon. You know, it's got normal mod damaging skills, and that's about, or not normal mod skills, right? Defense up, small damage, small boost to skill damage cap, and small supplemental boost to skill damage. And when they say small, they mean small. It's not a large. It's not a large amount. This weapon is probably not worth getting, like at all. And then we have Forbidden Agostia. Now this weapon, I think, in my opinion, if for a new or intermediate player, is probably the best weapon on this list. So, we are looking at a weapon that has 2 skills that are boosted by your farmable free summon. They're both misfalls, right? So they are the Omega skills. And one of them is big boost to Dark Allies attack, which we want. And you take damage equal to 20% of your max HP at the start of battle. Now this seems really bad. However, when you think about it, the grid that your new and intermediate players start with in Dark is one that relies on the Celeste Claw, which has two skills. One is attack raising, and the other one is enmity, so it raises your attack when your HP gets lower. And this skill starts your HP lower, so you'll end up starting by dealing more damage. Also, this weapon comes with a boost to multi-attack rate, double attack only, so it's not as good as if it were triple attack also, but it still helps with damage output, and critical hit rate. Which, the critical hit rate part isn't the most important, but it doesn't hurt. Right? Even with just one copy of this weapon, you will occasionally hit some critical hits, and they'll deal extra damage. So, personally speaking, if I am thinking of this and most of my advice here has been, on this channel, if I'm giving advice, has been aimed at new or intermediate players. Right? People who can't do the raids that these weapons drop from. I think that the best choice for those players is probably the Forbidden Agostia or the Fang of the Dragon Slayer. And I would say, if you're trying to future-proof yourself as like an intermediate player who's trying to work toward the Revan's raids, I'd probably pick the Fang, because ultimately Forbidden Agostia is kind of a luxury piece in most endgame Dark grids. Most endgame Dark grids don't use it, so there is like an alternative grid that uses it, but but the Fang of the Dragon Slayer can be used a lot of places. Right? Especially if once you get to the ability to do the Revan's Raid and you get the materials to do Defense Awakening, the weapon goes everywhere, because it'll be strong offensively and defensively at that point. Yeah, I think that those are the only two I'd possibly pick for the situation that we'd be in. So don't worry too much about it. This weapon series is not really aimed at new or intermediate players, but if you think about it and are a little flexible, you might be able to come up with some uses. Alright, I think that about covers kind of the freebies and the walk. Oh no, hold on. We've got the weapon trade. The fourth type of ticket that I completely forgot to talk about. Alright, there's a lot of weapons on this list. So luckily, there are tabs. All right, so first off is Regalia weapons. I would not pick any of these. As a new player, they may be appealing. As an intermediate player, you have the ability to farm these, and punching the raids that these come from is not all that hard. Right, if you've done it, like we just unlocked Relic Buster recently. If you have Relic Buster and one of its EMP skills to charge your entire team's meter, you should be able to get close to blue chest requirements relatively easily. So I would not worry about Regalia weapons. Same thing could be said for Xeno weapons. These are now, at this point in the game, kind of niche and see mostly main hand use. And they are farmable from these permanent Xeno showdowns. Primal weapons. So, these you also shouldn't pick because they're easily farmable from standard series raid. That, like, basically the series right after the Omega series that we're working on right now on this channel is the primal, this series that drops these weapons. And except for the ones with the little sparkly, we'll talk about those later. But yeah, it's the series that drops everything else, and it's not that hard to just punch it. Also, if you're doing pure free-to-play, most of these are worthless. The only thing, and I wouldn't recommend picking this with a ticket, but if you're farming, right, you could pick up a Dark Gun there. And you could pick up the Bow of Sigurd, which is a normal mod weapon that has 2 attack modifiers, which is pretty strong. Don't pick these with your tickets, though. Alright, Old and Primal weapons, right? There's a series of free quests that you can repeat without any entry materials, only AP, that drops these. Don't pick these. Epic weapons. None of these are really all that useful anymore, and they are a free quest that you can repeat only using AP. I think the most useful one at this point in the game is probably this All Might Sphere, just because it gives Earth a charge attack damage cap up. I wouldn't pick any of these weapons though. Don't do it. Alright, Ennead weapons. These are a trap. These are 100% a trap, because they come at Awakening level 1, and none of these weapons are any good without their Awakening level maxed out. So, right, like, you know, the ones that you want in multiples, farm the raids. When the, especially right now, when there's a extra chest, the purple chest campaign is going on, and when the double chests are going on for hosts, right? Because then you're getting extra chances to get these weapons. And because you need to get the anima to awaken these weapons anyway, you need to farm the raids anyway. So it's not a good pick. Ancestral weapons. Alright. This is the first tier that I could actually see making a pick in. So keep this tier in mind, the ancestral weapons. There are some things in here that we need to talk about. Fenrir Cerberus weapons, no. Don't pick these. These are bad. Yeah. If you're gonna pick one, you need to know what you're doing. Proving Grounds weapons. These weapons have an uncap that they're not at, right? They have a 5-star uncap, and an awakening levels that requires the event that you can farm them from to run. So don't pick these. Malice weapons. Okay. Technically speaking, this is a tier that you could pick something. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we get to menace weapons. Alright. So, we have reached through all the tiers, and this is the one that contains my highest recommendation. Agonize. This bow Has small boost to Dark Allies' attack, and supplements Dark Allies' skill damage. So, Menace and Malice raids are high level and extremely irritating to farm because they do not have blue chest mechanics. Right? Blue chest mechanics being you come into a raid, get a specific amount of honors and an extra chest. The blue chest drops, and those chests tend to have decent odds of dropping the weapon comparatively. So that means you don't have to race for MVP, you don't have to get applied bounty, so that you have a higher chance of dropping a non-guaranteed chest. Menace and Malice raids don't have that. They have a non-guaranteed chest that can drop this weapon, but can also drop other weapons. Including, if I'm looking for Agonize, it can the chest that you're looking at can also drop Faceless, which is not as useful. Alright, so Agonize, the supplement to Dark Allies skill damage, it doesn't tell you this on this screen. This number is 100,000. I believe it's percentage based, so if you're doing it on a lower HP raid, you're not going to see as high damage. But 100,000 is a lot, and it stacks for up to 200,000. And luckily for us, there are 3 weapon tickets that you get this year. One from logins, one from a reward, and I believe that there was... Where did the other one come from? Was it like a... Was it part of the initial rewards? I don't remember. But the point is you have 3. And so I would personally recommend putting 2 of them into Agonize, so you don't have to bear the pain of farming this raid. I've done it a little bit. I got 1 weapon drop. It was not Agonize. Then the weapon tickets dropped, and I immediately traded them for 2 Agonizes on my main account, and do not regret that at all. Alright, so this is a weapon that exists, and it won't improve your damage with your normal attacks and your charge attacks by a ton if you're really low level. But if you're, intermediate and up, this weapon will do really well for you. It'll improve your damage by a lot. Skill damage especially will be good. Since it's only got a small normal attack mod, it's not the best for damage for your other stuff. But it's worth picking up because it's a weapon that can last you into the end game. Alright, then we're looking at Malice weapons. So this is a lower tier recommendation, and I personally wouldn't recommend doing it, but Columba is not a bad weapon. It supplements your water allies' charge attack damage. This supplement skill is 400,000. So if you were to supplement, and if you were to combine, a Columba with a what was the name of the thing? The water Revan weapon from the other ticket that we looked at. See, I don't remember the names of these weapons. But if you were to combine those two, you'd hit the supplemental charge attack damage cap of 1 million at full HP. That can be okay. However, the problem with Columba is it doesn't really have a damage skill. Bow voltage is not very strong. I believe it's like 4% EX modifier attack per bow you have equipped. It includes this one, but it's not very good because most of the you're not going to equip very many bows in water. Alright, all these other weapons, probably not worth your time. I guess there's like a kind of a shout out to this Chris of Hypnos because it's a pretty decent main hand. Gives uplift effect and armored, I believe. Alright, but I would not recommend picking this. And I would probably not recommend picking Columba unless you're kind of in between doing Revan weapons and having your grids all fully set up. So it can improve your damage. I picked it on my last year's anniversary ticket because basically the last weapon that was available was Columba. And I don't regret doing that. but it's, you know, it's not the best weapon. Alright, then we go to ancestral weapons. So, again, always thinking this, from the perspective of a new or intermediate player. If I'm an intermediate player, and I have access to the 6 Dragon Raids, I probably would not pick any of these. It would not help that much. Because you have access to the raids that you need to get these. And if you are able to blue chest, you can farm these weapons out. It's not that hard. Also, you can do hosts and get through there. That being said, if you don't have access to these raids, you know, if say you're a beginner or you're, you know, just into high level and you're having trouble with the 6 Dragon solo quests, there are a couple of these that I can recommend that you pick up. If I'm a beginner and, you know, really want to upgrade my grid, and, you know, with something that is going to help a lot and still be useful in the long term, I would say the only two that I'd look at are the Wind one and the Dark one. EBR's Beak and Fediel's Spine. I believe this one's a katana and this one's a sword. So, EBR's Beak, right? Massive boost to Wind Allies attack, supplement skill damage. So, like the Agonize, this supplement skill damage is 100,000. Unlike the Agonize, this normal mod skill is massive instead of small. It's unboostable, but this weapon has boosts one of the highest normal attack mods, like raw normal attack mods in the game. It's a decent main hand, but you don't really pick these for the main hand effect. So, essentially, eventually, in your wind grids, if you have anybody that deals skill damage, you pick up 2 of these over time. And it will help in your early game if you're a new player, because this massive boost to wind attack can be that normal mod in your grid that we talked about when we were talking about grid construction. So that's pretty handy. Yeah, I think that if you are, you know, focusing on wind, which our account here focuses really heavily on wind, I would love to have this weapon. And if I were using these tickets, I would pick EBR's Beak in a heartbeat, because our wind grid is our strongest and we want to keep it that way. Just so that when we run into an obstacle, we can throw wind at it, and that will hopefully be enough. The other weapon that you can look at is Fediel's Spine. So Fediel's Spine has a stamina skill for its first one. You know, massive stamina, massive boost to your attack based on your HP being high. And it has a supplement charge attack damage based on your HP being high, which is like the Schrodinger, which is the water revenant weapon. And like that one, it has the cap of 600,000. So ultimately, we would want to get 2 of these at some point. And if you are strong in dark, this is a decent pickup. You know, if you're early on, unable to access these raids, don't think your grids are going to be finished for a little while, this will help you a little bit. It's also a pretty good main hand, because it's got the ability to do extra boost to your charge bars, which can help, you know, pick up the slack when somebody else is a bit low on meter. These other weapons are not particularly useful, right? Like, this weapon is good because, you know, it's got supplemental damage on critical hits, but you need a 100% crit rate to make this weapon do consistent damage, which you don't have early on. This weapon is good, but, right, it doesn't have an attack modifier. It only boosts your charge attack damage. So it's not something that you want to pick up early on when your grids aren't finished and you're lacking in damage. There is a niche case for picking up the Galleon's Jaw. and that's for Relic Buster. If you're just trying to, you know, 1-2 Relic Buster, get a blue chest, I guess you could pick up the Galleon's Jaw. It's not, again, it's not the best pickup. Wilness's Finger sees basically no use in high level play, and the same is true for the Blue Sword. So those aren't picked up at all, and everything else beyond, like behind the ancestral weapons, this is stuff that's either pretty easily farmable, a trap like the Ennead weapons, or stuff that you just don't need, like the epic weapons. So I think it boils down to EBR's Beak, Fedial's Spine, Columba if you don't have anything else to pick, and Agonize. And since you get 3, you can mix and match. Right? Say I already have an Agonize, I can pick the other one and pick some other stuff. So yeah, I think that the fact that we get 3 of these really is going to boost new and intermediate players' grids by a lot. And if you're someone who put off farming Agonize because Menace Seer raids are the worst to farm, now you don't have to farm it, which is great because I hate those raids. I hate farming them. They're not fun. They're fun raids, but they're not fun to farm, is what I should say. All right. I think that about covers all the freebies that we want to cover in this video for the 10th anniversary. So, any questions or anything, feel free to ask. However, I think that's about it. So, I think the next video is going to be something about the changes that were made that are beneficial to this account, right? This has been more of a general advice sort of video, which I don't usually do, but this is time limited, and I kind of want to talk about a lot of aspects of the game, even if I'm not using them here. All right. Well, if you've watched until the end, you have some stamina. Thank you. And if not, you don't hear this message at all, so thank you anyway. Alright, this has been Shadow SP, talking about some Granblue Fantasy 10th anniversary stuff. See you later. Signing off.